Recorded Books presents Excerpts from the Journals of Lewis and Clark, edited by Nicholas Biddle, narrated by Norman Dietz, with additional material by Claudia Howard and read by Nelson Runger.
Thomas Jefferson had a dream, and from the moment he was elected president in 1800, he set about making that dream a reality. Nearly 20 years earlier, in 1783, he had written to George Rogers Clark, a friend and the older brother of William Clark, "I find the English have subscribed a very large sum for exploring the country from the Mississippi to California. They pretend it is only to promote knowledge. Some of us have been talking here in a feeble way of making the attempt to search that country. But I doubt whether we have enough of that kind of spirit to raise the money. How would you like to lead such a party?" George Rogers Clark turned him down. Jefferson, like many another visionary before him, was searching for the Northwest Passage. A water route across the continent, and thus an alternative to the lengthy circumnavigation of the globe then necessary in the Far East trade, would be of incalculable worth to his young country. Also, the fur industry was making a fortune for the British in the North, and the Virginian, a lifelong Anglophobe, was not above lifting a piece of the action. Lastly, the northwest of the continent, so recently explored by Mackenzie, Vancouver, and the American Gray in his ship the Columbia, was disputed territory, currently unpossessed. Jefferson was elected president in the fall of 1800, and just weeks after taking office he wrote to his neighbor and friend Meriwether Lewis, "The appointment to the presidency has rendered it necessary for me to have a private secretary. Your knowledge of the Western country makes it desirable for public as well as private purposes that you should be engaged in that office." The new president, in a flurry of correspondence over the previous year, had been gathering as much information as he could about the upper Missouri and the Pacific Northwest. The books and maps in the Monticello Library were the greatest compendium of such knowledge in existence at the time. Lewis joined him there, and they proceeded to the White House. Then, in November 1802, came word that the Spanish intendant in New Orleans had closed the Mississippi to American shipping. French Louisiana had been awarded to Spain in 1762, at the end of the 7 Years' War, partly to win her to the peace and partly to keep the British from acquiring Louisiana as well as Canada in the negotiations. But 38 years later, in 1800, Napoleon forced Spain to return the territory. He was planning once more for war against Britain, and this time he wanted their land in the Western Hemisphere. Napoleon ordered 2 armies to be assembled, one to wrest French San Domingo from the black usurper Toussaint Louverture, the other to sail for New Orleans, from where it would march on Canada. In early 1802, all of this was known by the United States State Department. Napoleon wasn't after the United States. As a matter of fact, as soon as the news of the receding of Louisiana had reached Jefferson in 1801, he began to petition the French government, through his minister Robert Livingston, for the purchase of New Orleans, or at least the legal right to use the city's docks and the waterway of the Mississippi. Livingston met with a cold response. But the transfer of Louisiana from Spain to France took several years, and when the Spanish closed the port in 1802, Jefferson knew the situation had become critical. His frontier citizens relied on the Mississippi waterway for their livelihoods. There had long been the possibility that the western regions would actually secede from the Union if their needs were ignored. He promptly sent James Monroe, Minister Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary, to France to assist Livingston. Jefferson thought the time was right to propose his western expedition. He told his cabinet that he wanted
Sample complete. Ready to continue?